Welcome to Patreon Goes Postal. You sent me some questions, so it's only fair that I answer them. The old Patreon envelope that I've been using for every single one of these so far, so, I've really gotten the 50 cents out of that. So, let's have a look at today's questions. Thomas Amenta asks, if you were trapped on a desert island and only allowed to bring in 5 movies, books, and albums each with you, what would you bring? Well, I think that this island would have to have something to use these movies and albums, otherwise that would kind of suck. Or, I don't know, in this scenario, I guess I have an unlimited amount of battery or all that kind of stuff. I don't know. So, let's just pretend though that I do. I brought some props with me for today's edition of Patreon Goes Postal, so we'll start with the books. We have, we'll start here with Lee Child's Killing Floor, the first Jack Reacher novel. I enjoy the Jack Reacher series, and I feel like the first one is a good place to start as any. If I'm going to have to read it over and over, that'll be an enjoyable read. We have Battle Royale, the novel that became a movie, very controversial film, so it's a pretty thick book, might take me a little while to read, so that's kind of why I picked it. And also, I'm on a desert island, so why not have a book about people killing each other on an island? We have, this one's a little bit cheating, the Bachman books by Stephen King. It's one book. You said, what book? So this is one. It has 4 stories in it, including The Long Walk, which is a favorite of mine, and The Running Man, as well as the very controversial Rage, which Stephen King has since, I think, almost kind of denounced. Doesn't really like the story anymore, but it was about a school shooter, and it's fine. But The Running Man is the real star of this book, I think. Much better than the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, but, to each their own. I had to bring some comics with me, so this is The Punisher by Garth Ennis. This is his Welcome Back Frank run. And we have artwork by Steve Dillon right in there. There you go, there's some Steve Dillon artwork. And I don't know if any of this is going to show up very well on camera. Anyway, this is a complete run of a story. Hard to do that in a comic book form a lot of times, so that's why I selected this one. It is a full story start to finish. And then we have Chuck Palahniuk's Choke, my favorite Chuck Palahniuk book by far. A lot of people pick Fight Club. They're just wrong. That's fine. But Choke is also funny, so it's a little enjoyable. Mixing it up there from what I've got there already, which isn't necessarily overly comical, although The Punisher does have some funny moments in it as well. But Choke is an excellent book. For albums, well, let's start with, I'll use those at the bottom. So I'll start with Sepultura's Chaos AD, and this is going to really tell you a lot about when people are like, what kind of music do you listen to? Well, I guess I'm just going to expose myself here now. But anyway, Chaos AD has some great songs on it. Some people will think, Roots, Bloody Roots is Sepultura's greatest song. It's really not. This one's got Propaganda, Biotech is Godzilla, Slave New World, Refuse Resist. Perfect album from front to back, really. It's one of my favorites by Sepultura. Chaos AD. We'll slow it down a little bit to a certain degree with the Swords, Age of Winters. It's a fun little album, It's about wolves and the various, magical and mystical things going on. So it's a stoner rock, stoner metal album. I don't smoke myself, and I assume that I won't have anything on this deserted island or desert island or whatever this is. But that being said, it'll be a nice little change of pace there. Then we have Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power. This is a real normie tier choice, but what are you going to do? It is probably one of their best albums. Mouth for War, Walks on this one, Fucking Hostile, by Demons Be Driven. Great album, also front to back. And then we have KMFDM. Have to have a KMFDM album in there. Also mixes it up a little bit because this one is where KMFDM starts really getting a little more electronic in their influences, but also stays pretty heavy. And Extort, again, is probably my favorite overall KMFDM album. There are songs I like better, but this one has Power, has Dogma, Apathy, Rules, Son of a Gun. Great songs, all of them back to back, so I really enjoyed that. And then finally, I picked 6 because I would have to make a choice. I don't know which one I would do, but I wanted a little humor mixed in here. So did I want to go with musical humor? In this case, I would pick Primus's Pork Soda. Primus, another favorite band of mine. I was supposed to see them before COVID, fucked that up. But I was supposed to see them with the Sword in Toronto, actually. But anyway, this is probably my favorite Primus album. You've got Bob, DMV, My Name is Mud. You've got Pork Soda, of course, Mr. Crinkle. And it's a fun little album. Or would I want to go with literal comedy, in which case I would take Norm Macdonald's Ridiculous. So that is it's Norm's only comedy album that I'm aware of, and it's fun. It's got a whole bunch of different sketches of his that he's done. It's not really musical comedy because of the fact that obviously Norm Macdonald doesn't sing, although there is a 20-minute long sketch called Tex Hooper in there that's very enjoyable. It's about a country music star who has come back from the from being in obscurity for a long period of time, and it turns out that he's gay, and this is a big deal in the country music world. So there's my albums. And then finally, I would go with my movies. So we'll start off with a little comedy in the form of Monty Python's Life of Brian. This is my Criterion Collection DVD, so I'd have to take that with me, I guess. Just to make sure it stays protected, because it did cost me like $70 when it came out originally, because I'm a fucking idiot. But anyway, Life of Brian, really enjoy that movie. Some action, probably one of the greatest action movies of all time, and I don't say that with no hyperbole, is The Raid's Redemption. It's called The Raid Redemption, not The Raid's Redemption, but anyway, The Raid Redemption. Absolutely fantastic. 90 minutes of just kicking the shit out of each other. Fantastic movie. We have to go with RoboCop in there as well. Fantastic. I always enjoy. I brought the trilogy, but if the rules were only that I could only take one, of course I would just take the original RoboCop. Nothing like being on a deserted island and watching a guy get shot in the balls by RoboCop. Another comedy film here with Basketball. I could watch this movie probably every 6 months and I don't get tired of it. I don't know why, but I feel like that's going to be a key for any sort of desert island type thing, where I'm not going to be able to select 5 new movies every month or anything like that. So Basketball, I can watch that over and over and be entertained. And finally, I would also have to take with me Kurt Russell's Escape from New York, to give me hope that perhaps I could escape a deserted island at some point. So that's my movies. So what was your name again? Thomas Amenta. Thomas, that's my selection, and I hope you got a little bit of insight into the type of entertainment I enjoy and the type of fucked up person I am. So there you go. Darren Morris asks, if you had to choose to be stuck in a room with either Nicki Minaj or Iggy Azalea, and they will both be rapping / making noises in general, who would you pick? No, death is not an option. Now, is their death an option? That's, a valid question, I think. If I'm not allowed to shoot myself and I'm not allowed to shoot them, then I would probably go with Iggy Azalea. And before someone calls me a huge racist on that one, I guess, is I would be interested in sitting down with her, especially in the current climate, to say, after she got done apparently rapping / making noises in general, if she'll actually have a talk with me, is to say, now that the whole, Black Lives Matter thing is going on, and we're finding out people are offended by, well, we're not finding out that people were offended by blackface, but with the whole thing with animated voices and things like that happening, with them taking away, like the guy who voiced Cleveland is no longer allowed to voice Cleveland, that kind of thing, right? Does Iggy Azalea now feel like she can even come back from that? And maybe just ask her how she feels about essentially ripping off black culture to make a living, and how that's done for her. But that would be a fun time, and also then if death is not an option, she can't kill me either. So, But if she can, then maybe that will make it quicker. And I also don't know how long I'm stuck in this room. Like, is this forever? This is another, like, I'm also stuck on this deserted island. I have to bring my 5 movies and books and albums and listen to Iggy Azalea. I don't really know what's going on there. But Darren, that's what I would choose, Iggy Azalea. And just annoy the shit out of her with questions about her bad choices for her career. Franny Gretsch asks, imagine there's no Patreon and no real-world jobs and your only income has to come from YouTube. What would you choose if these were your only two options? They both pay the same in the hypothetical scenario. Monetize your YouTube videos, or take a Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship. Being broke and dying of hunger is not an option. I feel, Franny, that being broke and dying of hunger would be the only option in this scenario if what you're saying is there are no jobs, no real-world jobs left, and there's no Patreon. So, not that that would matter either. That means that every single person in the world would move toward doing YouTube videos, and then the market would be so saturated that there'd be no money. I'd be getting maybe 3 views a video. I don't know what that pays in YouTube dollars or in Raid Shadow Legends sponsorships, but I can't imagine that it would be enough to eat. So, in that scenario, what difference does it make? What the fuck? I'll take the monetization of my YouTube videos, and then I will just spend all of my time making fun of every potential sponsor on YouTube until I become the biggest hypocrite on the internet. And then it won't matter anyway, because we'll see which happens first. I starve to death, or someone shoots me for being an asshole to their company. Which, I don't know how these companies would even exist, by the way, if there's no real-world jobs. Sorry, Franny, but this question's kind of weird, but, you know, I appreciate it anyway. Scott Martin asks, were there any embarrassing fashion choices that you made in your youth? Yeah. All of them, probably. I mean, everyone makes bad fashion choices in their youth, but particularly, I used to wear, because I hated jeans. I wear jeans now, but as a kid, I fucking hated jeans. And so, as a young kid, though, I didn't want to wear, like, slacks, because I guess I felt like as a kid, that's not, you know, I'm a kid, I guess. I don't know, whatever. But as a kid, I would only wear sweatpants, and then as a teenager, I would only wear hospital pants. Hospital pants, or hospital scrub pants if you prefer, were a little bit of a fad, at least here in the mid-90s. And I wore them well after that fad had worn out. And so I was a big fan of wearing hospital pants with a pair of shorts underneath and band t-shirts, Rage Against the Machine shirt, Sepultura shirt, Pantera shirt, that sort of thing. And then I had a buzzed head, and it was an awful look. I looked horrible, and you know, it was a terrible fashion choice. Chris Simpson asks, here's a marry, fuck, kill for you. Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, and Don Jr. So I did one of these marry, fuck, kills last time, and I imagine I'll probably get one of these every Patreon goes postal. We'll see if I do them each time, but why not? So this one, pretty easy for me, actually. I thought about this a little bit. Fuck Ben Shapiro, both figuratively and literally. He's small, you know, he's got those soft features. I'm not gay, but that being said, you know, I feel like that's the closest to a more feminine sort of look for me, so I guess if I have to, again, I would enjoy that one. Marry is Don Jr. for his money, of course, and then kill is Tucker Carlson, and just taking my time with it too. Oh boy. So there's your answer, Chris Simpson. We now have a series of Canadian or Canadian versus American questions. I got like 4 of these, and I figured why not take them all and try and answer them right here and now. So we'll start with Infinite Ideas. Given that the US-Canada border looks like it will be closed for a while, what do you miss most about visiting the United States? Not a whole lot, to be honest with you, but anytime I would go across the border to Michigan, It was usually for axe throwing tournaments, and currently I can't throw axes even here in Canada right now. So, I mean, that's kind of shitty, but that's what's going on there. But that's, I guess, what I would miss the most is going over to Total Axe in Michigan. One of my favorite places to throw axes. And that's where I did that video, the Buckley Throws Sharp Shit video. Enjoyed that as well. But anyway, that's pretty much what I would miss there. As well as the snack foods. Now, Americans, you guys know how to make yourselves fat. That is, without question, you guys are the fucking world heavyweight champs of turning yourselves into heavyweights. And you guys have way more snack options than we do. Just alone, your Pringles. I think you guys almost have like a full fucking like aisle for Pringles. You know, I know that's hyperbole, but you got a lot more options than we do. A lot more cereals, a lot more just junk food in general. You guys have fucking nailed it. And so I would always go over a couple times a year and get some groceries and get a whole big pile of American snack foods that we can't get here. Luckily, there are a couple people now in London that are doing this for me, so I can just go buy them from them. So I got myself some Memphis barbecue Pringles the other day. They're delicious from a vendor here in London, and they didn't really cost that much more than they would if I had gone, perhaps even they cost less than if I had have driven to the States, had to cross a border, pay the toll, so on and so forth to get myself some. So, yeah, that's probably the thing I miss the most. John Jorgensen asks, what's the main difference between Canadian and American politics? Are Canadian politics as shitty as American? I've done videos about the Canadian political system, so I'm not going to go into a whole thing about that. You can look up how our system works online, as well as how the UK system works. Very similar, all of that. I will say, though, that Canadians love American culture, pop culture, and all that kind of stuff. And as politics has become more of a pop culture type of thing these days, and everyone rooting for their fucking team and so on and so forth, I would say that yeah, Canada is trying to copy that. We're seeing it, and it's so stupid. You just see these fucking idiots on Facebook, and they're such hypocrites because they're so, like, they don't understand. They're just trying to parrot what they're seeing their American friends doing on their Facebook, you know, talking about the libs and all this kind of shit, not realizing for a fucking second that in Canada we have free healthcare, like, well, not free, but whatever, socialized medicine. It doesn't get more socialist than that. I mean, well, it does. You know, ask Russia circa, you know, the 30s and 40s and so on and so forth. But that being said, our right, like our conservatives, are pretty much Democrats, and then our Democrats aren't even quite like our conservatives will never get rid of socialized medicine, and our left won't ever get to a point where we're gonna have, say, basic, you know, universal income or free college or anything like that. So both our left and right are like this in the grand fucking scheme of things. They're that close to each other, but you still get Canadians that are just dipshits, and they're like, oh, fucking goddamn liberals ruining everything for us. I'm like, you know what? If you really think that, turn in your fucking health card on the way outside the fucking border and just keep on driving. You guys, you want that shit? Then you fucking go have it. But here in Canada, we're starting to get a few people here that are just like, we're mimicking. That's all it is. You get these Canadians they just see what the Americans are doing, and they're like, oh, masks are against our freedom and shit like that. And it's like, wow. And they think they're free thinkers too, of course, but they're not free thinkers. They're just parroting what someone else has said, and it's just ridiculous. So I could do without it, but we're starting to get there. Vincenzo Vinny Giovanni Bonadonna, I hope that's your real name, says, what Canadian artists do you like? And I've already shown you some things that I like here today as I point at the ground that you can't see, but that's where I threw all that shit that I showed you earlier. Again, as you guys can tell, I'm a bit of a metal fan, and so I'll try and keep this short, but a couple of my favorite Canadian metal artists are Strapping Young, Strapping Young Lad. There we go. I could edit that, not going to. And it's a band fronted by Devin Townsend, who has another thing he calls the Devin Townsend Project. Very interesting if you're into that kind of thing. And but Strapping Young Lad is a fun band that I don't think he does anything with really anymore. They did a song called "You Suck." Look that up. It's fun. And 3 Inches of Blood, which is also sort of a they were kind of like, I guess if you had to put them like something, I would say Dragon Force without all the fucking weird bullshit. So they're an interesting little group as well. I believe it's just 2 guys, and they sing about the future. They sing about fantasy stuff, sci-fi stuff, and they don't take themselves overly serious. And they are another Canadian group that I enjoy. And finally, in my list of Canadian stuff, Andrew D. Pollard says, "What is the one thing you actually despise about Canada or Canadian culture?" I will say this, is that when it comes to Canadian pop culture, I hate how everything that becomes popular is always just like lowest common denominator fucking like rural hick shit, right? Like, if any of you guys know anything about Canadian pop culture, what you probably know is Trailer Park Boys. You might have heard of Letterkenny by this point. Maybe Corner Gas, The Red Green Show. It's all this rural Canada bullshit. And it's like, you know that like most people in Canada, like most people in the States, live in cities? I always just wonder, like, does the CBC not know that they could make a show about people living in a city ever? I don't know, but doesn't do it for me. I don't really care about either laughing at Hicks or laughing with Hicks or any of that kind of shit. I just don't. I thought that Trailer Park Boys was kind of humorous for the first 3 seasons or so. I did enjoy it. It kind of sort of took a slide for me after that, but that's probably the thing I hate the most about Canadian pop culture. Beep Boop asks, "How do you drink your coffee?" Usually in bar form with coffee crisp. I hate coffee. I don't drink it. So I don't know why I put this one on here other than to say to Beep Boop, sorry, but I don't drink coffee. Travis the Moonstar says, "What are the biggest rookie mistakes a person can make coming right out of a bad relationship? You're faithfully snide and cynical in Seattle." I don't know if this was meant to be for advice Patreon asked for, but they put it in the spot to ask questions for Patreon Goes Postal, so I guess I'm going to answer it here. But biggest rookie mistakes, I would say, are keeping that person on Facebook. Just get rid of them. Like, don't fucking torture yourself by looking at their Instagram all the time and doing all. Just make a fucking clean break from it, and don't think that like you can come back from it. Okay, you can't. So just sever as many, if not all, ties as possible, and be done with it. Other than that, I would say almost like thinking that you can't just come back. Now, you'll know when you're ready, but like, don't, if you're on a date right after you've broken up with someone and you're talking about, oh, my ex was a real bitch, you're not ready then, okay? Like, don't fucking talk about your exes on other dates with other people and shit like that. It's probably, I would say, one of the biggest, we'll call it rookie mistakes that people make, is just move on from them and treat everyone else as if they are a completely new person. Give them the benefit of the doubt that they are a completely different person, that they aren't your ex, even if they do things that are kind of similar or whatever, because everyone's kind of similar, because as I've said, no one's special, and everyone's pretty much the same. So, but treat them as if they are a different person, and don't bring that baggage into another relationship. So that's what I would recommend. I think that's probably all I can tell you. Otherwise, we're all gonna just fuck it up and make mistakes and do whatever. But you'll know if what you're doing is working, because whether or not they fucking return your calls or your texts, or they'll continue to fuck you or whatever. And if none of that is happening, then you fucked up. Learn from your mistakes. Sydney Dorawa says, have you ever had a near-death experience or a moment when you thought you were going to die, even if you were definitely going to be fine? I feel like I answered this somewhere, so I do apologize if I've already talked about this somewhere, but I can't remember. But anyway, I've had two near-death experiences, we'll call them. One, I was a child, I don't really remember it very well, but I went swimming in a, I don't know, lake or something, and there was a strong undertow, and shoop, I went down, and my dad swam out, pulled me out, and I lived. So that's a real exciting story, but yeah, I almost died from drowning there. And then the second time, I also almost died from drowning. It was, I was in a lake, I know that much, and it was when I was in my late teens, and we were on a trip for my boxing club. We had decided we were going to go, we went up north, and we're supposed to be fighting that weekend, but our fights all got canceled. They fucked it up. I don't know what the hell happened, but either way, we had 3 of us going there to fight, and all 3 of our fights got canceled. But we rented this cottage in Muskoka for the, 3 days or so beforehand, and maybe a day or 2 after. And we go up there, and we're having fun, and we're on this lake, and there's kayaking, there's swimming, there's all whatever the fuck you want to do out there, right? So I decide, well, I'm in fucking perfect shape, best shape of my life. I'm 18 years old, I'm invincible. Every 18-year-old thinks that. I'm gonna swim out to this fucking dock way out there. Well, I get about halfway there, halfway between, the land and this dock, and I realize I'm not gonna make it. Like, there's no way. I can't fucking swim to there, and I can't swim back now because I'm literally halfway between the 2 spots. So I'm like treading water. I'm like, this fucking sucks. I'm gonna fucking die out here. And then this fucking one of my other boxing club mates comes by on this one of those pedal boats, big like swan like pedal boats. Comes by and they're like, oh, do you want to ride? And I gotta play it all cool. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, I guess so, whatever. Sure, if you're offering. And I hop on this thing, but I'm like realizing, no, like if they hadn't have come by when they did, I probably would have went under, and then I don't know if anyone would have been able to come by and save me at the time, or if anyone would have even seen me go under, but I was definitely running out of energy, and was definitely just going to not be able to keep myself afloat for much longer. So those were both fun times. I guess the lesson there is I shouldn't be in any sort of body of water that's deeper than probably, like, say, 6 feet or so. And finally, our last question of the day is from Kylan Mann, who asks, eating ass, yes or no? I did say to throw in some personal questions, so whatever. You know what? They say that you shouldn't shit where you eat, and I follow the same policy in reverse. I'm not going to eat where people shit. So it's a thing the kids love. Maybe I'm just too old to adapt. I'm sure that when the blowjob was invented, someone was like, oh God, what are you gonna do with that? Oh, that's gross. And you know what? I'm fine with that. There's a perfectly good spot just 6 inches to the front or so of most people, most women, and I'm perfectly happy with that spot right there. Don't need to change. So those are your questions. Those are your answers. Hope you enjoyed this edition of Patreon Goes Postal. If I didn't get to your question, or you have a question for the next one, then feel free to comment it in the section here on YouTube, or right there on Patreon, and hopefully I will get to it next time. Thank you.